I'm Allan Parker, President of the Justice Foundation. Welcome to Justice TV, and we thank you for being with us here today. I believe this program is going to give you powerful information that's not widely known, and you're going to get an insight into the abortion industry from someone who has experienced, in a way, the sales job of the abortion industry. Today, America is in a valley of decision, and the world is with regard to abortion. Is abortion going to become illegal all over the United States, like it is in the state of Texas and about a dozen other states, perhaps? Or is it going to be protected because it's a woman's right and it's good for women? We're going to hear today from a woman who's had an abortion and who counsels other women who've had abortions, and who can tell you that for many women, it's not a good thing. In fact, even Justice Ginsburg of the United States Supreme Court said that abortion is a difficult and painful decision for most women. And we're going to talk, well, why is it difficult? Why is it hard? Because it's not just removing a piece of tissue, part of the woman's body, it's removing another human being. And even those who may not agree with that say it's a potential life. But the evidence, the science, and the women's testimony show it's a human being. Our guest today is Lavette Vassar. She is a woman who's experienced abortion herself, and she works in the abortion recovery department of CareNet. And CareNet is a nationwide network of pregnancy help centers that help women. So welcome, and thank you for being on our program today, Lavette.
So happy to be here.
Well, Lavette, tell us a little bit about what you do at CareNet.
Well, I've been given the great opportunity. I used to work at a pregnancy resource center, Hope Pregnancy Center, for 10 plus years doing post-abortive care. And so God has taught me so much that I've been given the opportunity to go to CareNet and share it nationally. So Jill Marquise and myself, we walk alongside pregnancy centers, individuals, and churches and help them organize an abortion recovery program, an abundant one, so they can reach other women and men who hurt from past abortions.
Thank you for everything you do. What got you into the abortion recovery movement?
Well, that's hilarious because I always think about I accepted Christ as my Savior, and I thought the next thing is to go help women at the pregnancy center. And I didn't know that day I was going to be helping myself. Went to the pregnancy center thinking I have so much to tell. And the director asked, have you ever had an abortion? And for some crazy reason, I admitted to not just one abortion, but to both of them. And I thought, why did you ever do that? And so she asked, she said, well, have you ever received healing? And I thought, no, and don't want to. You know, what happened behind closed doors, stay there. And so I was just like, I won't volunteer there. If I got to address this, I will not volunteer there. But it's funny because I know God was pursuing me. Every time I went to a function, that center director was there at every function, and she would call me out by name. Lavette, come in. And then one time she saw me and said, okay, just come in and see me. And that's where the journey started. I signed up for my abortion healing retreat weekend, and yeah, the rest is kind of like history.
What's an abortion retreat weekend?
Well, it is a weekend that snatched the Band-Aid completely off. Wherever you were uncomfortable, they're going to make you come face to face with those things. And for me, I was raised in a home where what happens in the house stays in the house. And that retreat weekend, Saturday morning was the morning that we had to share our story, the whole story, from childhood up until the point of your abortion. I did not want to share that. But that's when I realized I had a lot of struggles. They would always say, the ladies who facilitated the retreat weekend always laughed and said I was so angry. But now I think about it in hindsight, I was just terrified of what emotions might emerge because I haven't talked about it in so long. And so that retreat weekend, I was able to express my hurt, my anger, things I didn't understand, and have a memorial service for my two children and give them a name. That gave them an identity to our family.
So you're getting healing from an abortion that you had. Was it years prior, months prior?
Well, it was years prior. I had my abortion when I was 16, and then the next one when I was 17. So I didn't receive it until I was about 30.
So you carried that for 13 years plus.
Yes. And I thought I was carrying it pretty well until I had to confess to my husband, who was in Iraq, that I was going to go to this retreat. And that's when I had to tell him about the abortion. And he was like, I knew it. I knew something was wrong. And I thought all this time I was lying very well. But he said every time we would, have a pregnancy and go for our checkup, and the doctor asked the question, how many pregnancies? He was like, you would have a huge attitude, almost like, how dare you ask? So here all along, I thought I was hiding it.
Did you tell the doctor truthfully how many pregnancies you'd had, or did you hide the abortion pregnancies?
I hid the abortion. I never told the doctor truthfully.
Right.
Until I received my healing.
And was it worth all that pain to go through the healing? To bring it up again?
Oh, it was so worth it. It's funny because I always tell the story of when I got to the retreat facility, butterflies landed on me. And the ladies that were facilitating just kept saying, oh, you're going to be transformed. And all I was thinking was, please just get the butterflies off of me. I had the worst headache, could not eat any of Friday night because they served us dinner, couldn't eat. Saturday morning, I remember looking at my car. And the funny thing is, a couple of weeks ago, I was cleaning out my garage and I found my journal. And in my journal, I said Saturday morning, God, I'm still here. Do whatever you're going to do. And I shared my story, and instantly my headache went away. I became hungry, and I realized how much of a hold I allowed Satan to have. And I was like, never again. Never again.
If you would, could you tell our viewers what it was like as a 16-year-old girl when you find out you're pregnant and you're trying to figure out what to do? What happened then?
I was terrified to tell my mom. We was already a struggling family. My father was in and out of our life. And she kind of knew I was going to get pregnant because I was kind of living a little promiscuous. And when I told her, there was no, hey, let's find a pregnancy resource center. Let's talk to someone. It was like, hey, you're going to have to get an abortion. And so the funny thing is, I had my son at 16 and I got pregnant again. And I couldn't abort him because I had an infection. And he's now, and everybody told me to abort him. Because he's going to be the typical inner city, probably gangbanger. And I'm happy to say he's a registered nurse, saving lives. And so I was like caught up in if I wouldn't have had that infection, he would have been aborted. But right after him, I got pregnant again. And my mother was like, you're not bringing any more kids into this. You're not. We went to the abortion clinic. And so because I knew what it was like to give birth, I did not want to abort at all. And I remember crying at the abortion clinic. And the nurse brought me back out to my mom and said, she keep crying. We can't do it. And that right there was God intervening. And my mother took me outside and was like, you're going to come back tomorrow and you're going to get it done with that. Don't cry.
Why did you feel like it would be easier to go through pregnancy having done it once before? You said that you had you've given birth before and you felt like you didn't want an abortion because of that.
It wasn't as difficult. Yes, I was a single mom, but it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. There was resources out there. When you become a single mom, you look for the resources. I was able to get into a school program where the city paid for my education. And so I knew I could do it. I knew there was resources out there if you just did the homework. But for my mom, that wasn't optional. That
So
just wasn't optional.
so she took you back the next day to the abortion
No,
clinic, and
actually, the
she
next day I caught the train and went by myself. And I always laugh because Planned Parenthood never made sure I had a ride home. I went by myself. I cried in the parking lot and went upstairs to the abortion clinic. And I always say, won my Oscar. I stopped crying. And I always remember to this day what the nurse said when she did the ultrasound. Her exact words was, "She just keep on moving." And I knew that was my daughter's last fight for life.
And whose will was it that really accomplished the abortion? Was that the decision you wanted to make or your mother?
My mother. And when you're 16 and you live with your mom, you feel like, there's nowhere else I can go.
So what would you tell a woman now who's 16, she lives with her mom, and her mom says she needs to get an abortion? What would you say to that girl if she called you?
I would say pause for just 1 second. Because for me, everything felt like it was moving fast forward. To pause, look into the resources that are available. No one told me all my options. It was just one: abortion. That was the only option. So I think the biggest thing is pause. What do you want to do?
And in America, the question is, what does the girl or the woman want to do? Because a voluntary abortion may be permissible in some states, but involuntary abortion is illegal in all 50 states. And some parents go really far and say, if you don't get this abortion, I'm kicking you out of the house. And sometimes they'll say, I don't care, I've made the appointment, you're going. And today we have a Center Against Forced Abortion at the Justice Foundation because we have over 2,000 affidavits where women say they were pressured into having abortion. And pressure may not be illegal, but coercion, force, undue pressure can be illegal. And that's illegal. And we can help young girls who need someone to talk to their mother and say, it's not your choice. It's even a minor woman. It's her choice as well. How do you all help a woman in that situation if her parents or boyfriend or the boyfriend or the father of the child? How do you help women in those situations?
Well, one of the things I love to do when I used to be at the pregnancy center is invite them in. So often we tell the boyfriend is out there in the waiting room, even at the abortion clinic, he's out there in the waiting room. Invite him in. Because now we're about to share a story, of how God saved, and to inform them of all the information, even the mothers. I think one of my favorite times at the center is when a mom came in with her, or most memorable time was when a mom came in with her daughter and she was 17 in high school. And I was able to speak to the daughter one-on-one and then sit the mother down and I said, share with your mom your whole heart. And when she did, her mother just cried and told her, I am willing to walk alongside of you. Once they was informed of all the things the Pregnancy Resource Center had to offer, they were dumbfounded. And she carried the baby and her mother rallied behind her. And all I did was walk out of that room saying, man, if I was informed, if me and my mother just knew.
What a powerful story. So you're helping women not only on the front side to help them if they help them avoid getting an abortion, but you also help women who've had an abortion, just like you, that they're not alone. How do women feel when they're dealing with all the pain and anger like you are? How do you help them navigate that?
It's always amazing because I wish I could video women when the transformation happened. I say it's a Red Sea moment. Not only are we able to, but we have taken it into abortion recovery into the prison as well. And so one thing I love to ask them is, where was the church at? And a lot of women say the church wasn't there because you can't talk about this in the church. And that breaks my heart because the church, that is our responsibility. And so walking them through it slowly. And I think the shift is when they give that baby an identity, when they learn they can name that baby. You know, whatever name it is, that is their child. I think what brings me joy is I always talk to the ladies about when I hear my children call out their sibling's name that is in heaven. The two children are aborted, and I named them Deja and Dalvin. And so my 16-year-old has no problem with saying, oh, yeah, it's 5 of us and 2 of us in heaven. Their names Deja and Dalvin. And I just feel like, I'm sorry, that's just a stump on Satan. Like, the victory is the Lord's, and we are walking in that freedom. And so to walk in that true freedom, I really believe that the women see that, and it's contagious. They want a piece of it, and it's only because of God.
And the Lord actually brings freedom, as you're saying. He brings freedom to them in prison. They're still in prison, but they have freedom in the Lord.
Mm-hmm. You know, and what I find amazing, sometimes I've talked to women in prison, and they're freer than the ladies that's on the outside. And we are at the Mountain Dew unit. Some of them women are in there for murder. They're not coming out, but they're walking in freedom.
So that you say they're freed on the inside. That's after they've kind of confessed their abortion to the Lord and asked forgiveness, and then they feel forgiven and set free, right? That's actually the name of one of the major abortion recovery programs, and the one that you've worked with most closely is called, what's it called? Which one do you work with?
Well, I've worked with 2. I've worked with Rachel's Vineyard and Forgiven and Set Free.
Okay.
Those are my favorites, but there are many out there.
And they all share something in common, which is that they're helping women take something in their past that has a grip on them, and there's, like as you said, setting them free. So tell us,
free, indeed.
Amen. So you work with the Center Against Forced Abortions and provide tools that you can provide to women or parents, law enforcement officers, to let them know, to educate them that it's illegal to force anyone anywhere in the country to have an abortion. Can you tell us a little bit about how you use those letters?
Okay, so I love the declaration letter from the Justice Foundation, and using it in prison is huge because they are learning that, oh, I can make an impact while I'm behind bars. So they take their own money, get their own stamps, and mail it off because they want to see the change. They want to see the healing. And so we always put a folder together, and the declaration form is in there. And we tell them at the end of every Bible study or retreat weekend, please fill this out so you can make a difference. And I don't know how many women in prison will sit there after the class is over. We in the middle of their graduation, eating and celebrating, but they're making sure that form gets filled out so they can make a difference.
Well, thank you. Let me explain what the declaration form is that you mentioned, because the declaration form is a form that any woman can fill out if she's had an abortion and it's hurt her, to let the Supreme Court of the United States and other courts and legislatures know how painful it was. And so once they've been forgiven and set free, they want to share their story. And it's a declaration of how my abortion affected me. And they fill it out and send it to the Justice Foundation. And we've used that testimony to help reverse Roe v. Wade in America so that other women won't be hurting like the women in prison are hurting. It's pretty terrible. And so we also protect the woman's identity on the declaration form. She tells us whether to use her first name, full name, or initials only. And so we protect her confidentiality, but she can also check a box that says, tell my story to the courts. And she doesn't have to go on TV and tell her story. We'll take that to the United States Supreme Court and other courts of appeals and legislatures considering whether to ban or restrict abortion.
That's right.
Do you think that abortion is good for women, or is it bad for women in your experience? What's your opinion based on your experience?
It's bad. It's a quick fix. And then a lifelong cancer that you're carrying around with you. It seemed like the right answer. I promise you, for every young woman who's watching this, it seemed like the right answer, the one you'll run to. But when you start hearing things like, my oldest daughter always said, I wish I had an older sister. Well, she did. I aborted her.
So you call it a cancer. Yes, you called it a cancer. And we're getting near the end of our program. So I want to thank you for being with us. And I want to thank you for helping heal the women of that cancer of abortion. We've talked to thousands of women here, and we've actually collected testimonies of women. They've given us the permission to. Chapter 5 of our book, Reversing Roe v. Wade by Allan Parker, has testimonies like yours of women who've been hurt by abortion in lots of different ways. Send us information that for your monthly donation, you'd like to receive a copy of this book, Reversing Roe v. Wade. Thank you for being with us, Lavette, and thank you all for watching this program today.